Tonight's motivation will be from His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Purpose of life. One great question underlies our experience, whether we think about it consciously or not. What is the purpose of life? I have considered this question and would like to share my thoughts in the hope that they may be of direct practical benefit for those who read them. I believe that the purpose of life is to be happy. From the moment of birth, every human being wants happiness and does not want suffering. Neither social conditioning, nor education, nor ideology affect this. From the very core of our being, we simply desire contentment. I don't know whether the universe, with its countless galaxies, stars, and planets, has a deep meaning or not. But at the very least, it is clear that we humans who live on this earth face the task of making a happy life for ourselves. Therefore, it is important to discover what will bring about the greatest degree of happiness. For a start, it is possible to divide every kind of happiness and suffering into two main categories, mental and physical. Of the two, it is the mind that exerts the greatest influence on most of us. Unless we are either gravely ill or deprived of basic necessities, our physical condition plays a secondary role in life. If the body is content, we virtually ignore it. The mind, however, registers every event, no matter how small. Hence, we should devote our most serious efforts to bring about mental peace. From my own limited experience, I have found that the greatest degree of inner tranquility comes from the development of love and compassion. The more we care for the happiness of others, the greater our own sense of well-being becomes. Cultivating a close, warm-hearted feeling for others automatically puts the mind at ease. This helps remove whatever fears or insecurities we may have and gives us the strength to cope with any obstacles we encounter. It is the ultimate source of success in life. As long as we live in this world, we are bound to encounter problems. If at such times we lose hope and become discouraged, we diminish our ability to face difficulties. If, on the other hand, we remember that it is not just ourselves, but everyone who has to undergo suffering, this more realistic perspective will increase our determination and capacity to overcome troubles. Indeed, with this attitude, each new obstacle can be seen as yet another valuable opportunity to improve our mind. Thus, we can strive gradually to become more compassionate. That is, we can develop both genuine sympathy for others' suffering and the will to help remove their pain. As a result, our own serenity and inner strength will increase. Some of my friends have told me that, while love and compassion are marvelous and good, they are not really very relevant. Our world, they say, is not a place where such beliefs have much influence or power. They claim that anger and hatred are so much a part of human nature that humanity will always be dominated by them. I do not agree. We humans have existed in our present form for about 100,000 years. I believe that if during this time the human mind has been primarily controlled by anger and hatred, our overall population would have decreased. But today, despite all our wars, we find that the human population is greater than ever. This clearly indicates to me that love and compassion predominate in the world. And this is why unpleasant events are news. Compassionate activities are so much part of daily life that they are taken for granted and therefore largely ignored. True compassion is not just an emotional response, but a firm commitment founded on reason. Therefore, a truly compassionate attitude towards others does not change even if they behave negatively. Of course, developing this kind of compassion is not at all easy. As a start, let us consider the following facts. Whether people are beautiful and friendly or unattractive and disruptive, ultimately they are human beings just like oneself. Like oneself, they want happiness and do not want suffering. Furthermore, the right to overcome suffering and be happy is equal to one's own. Now, when you recognize that all beings are equal in both their desire for happiness and the right to obtain it, you automatically feel empathy and closeness for them. Through accustoming your mind to this sense of universal altruism, you develop a feeling of responsibility for others. The wish to help them actively overcomes their problems. Nor is this wish selective. It applies equally to all. As long as they are human beings experiencing pleasure and pain just as you do, there is no logical basis to discriminate between them or to alter your concern for them if they behave negatively. Let me emphasize that it is within your power, given patience and time, to develop this kind of compassion. Of course, our self-centeredness, our distinctive attachment to the feeling of an independent, self-existent person works fundamentally to inhibit our compassion. Indeed, true compassion can be experienced only when this type of self-grasping is eliminated. But this does not mean that we cannot start and make progress now. We should begin by removing the greatest hindrances to compassion, anger and hatred. As we all know, these are extremely powerful emotions, and they can overwhelm our entire mind. Nevertheless, they can be controlled. If, however, they are not, these negative emotions will plague us, with no extra effort on their part, and impede our quest for the happiness of a loving mind. I must emphasize again that merely thinking that compassion and reason and patience are good will not be enough to develop them. We must wait for difficulties to arise and then attempt to practice them. And who creates such opportunities? Not our friends, of course, but our enemies. They are the ones who give us the most trouble. So if we truly wish to learn, we should consider our enemies to be our best teacher. For the person who cherishes compassion and love, the practice of tolerance is essential, and for that, an enemy is indispensable. So we should feel gratitude to our enemies, for it is they who can best help us to develop a tranquil mind. Also, it is often the case in both personal and public life that with a change in circumstances, enemies become friends. The trouble is that when things in the world go well for us, we become confident that we can manage by ourselves and feel we do not need friends. But as our status and health decline, we quickly realize how wrong we were. This is the moment when we learn who is really helpful and who is really useless. So to prepare for that moment, to make genuine friends who will help us when the need arises, we ourselves must cultivate altruism. Individual happiness can contribute in a profound and effective way to the overall improvement of our entire human community. Because we all share an identical need for love, it is possible to feel that anybody we meet, in whatever circumstances, is a brother or a sister. No matter how new the face or how different the dress and behavior, there is no significant division between us and other people. It is foolish to dwell on external differences because our basic natures are the same. Ultimately, humanity is one, and this small planet is our own home. If we are to protect this home of ours, each of us needs to experience a vivid sense of universal altruism. It is only this feeling that can remove the self-centered motives that cause people to deceive and misuse one another. If you have a sincere and open heart, you naturally feel self-worth and confidence, and there is no need to be fearful of others. I believe that every level of society, familial, tribal, national, and international, the key to a happier and more successful world is the growth of compassion. We do not need to become religious, nor do we need to believe in an ideology. All that is necessary is for each of us to develop our good human qualities. I try to treat whoever I meet as an old friend. This gives me a genuine feeling of happiness. It is the practice of compassion. So going into a new year, may we all practice compassion and try to develop it within ourselves so that we may spread it throughout the world to all sentient beings. Okay, so I'm going to begin a teaching now that Venerable Chodron has been going through, and I'm going to be doing a review. So I want you to listen to this. The way this whole thing evolves is first there is a moment of valid mind that has the appearance of a truly existent I. I'm walking. The moment after that, the innate I grasping appears. The innate I grasping is the I grasping that goes from one birth to the next. It's very deeply ingrained. The continuity of that valid mind that apprehends I does not become the innate I grasping. First you have a moment of validity apprehending the I. Then the innate I grasping arises, thinking that the I exists as it appears. The mind apprehending the conventionally existing I and the I that is grasped by the innate I grasping are difficult to distinguish because true existence appears to both of them. However, only the innate I grasping is grasping at that true existence. The valid mind is not. Now, did everybody understand that? Okay. Now, I had to read this 5 different times before I even started to realize, to understand what it was saying. So, don't worry about it. Okay? Venerable gave us some questions from the teachings. We're going to go over those teachings. But one thing she did say was, new students should know that to arrive at this subtle point of being able to distinguish the conventionally existent I and the inherently existent one, in other words, what I just talked about, meditators have observed the self-grasping of persons and phenomena in their own mental continuum for a long time. They've studied treatises and sutras, they know the different levels of subtlety, and they can identify them clearly. For us to identify when we're having a valid mind apprehending I and when we are having an I grasping, that's difficult to distinguish between the mere I that exists dependently and the inherently existent I. That's also difficult. It's all difficult, so don't worry about it, okay? Okay, so there's that. Get this down. Okay. We are going through the teachings of Precious Garland. And tonight's review, I'm going to read you real quickly the paragraphs the verses that I used to answer these questions. Verse 28. Ultimately, the notion I exist and what is mine exists are false, because from the perspective knowing things as they truly are, there is neither I nor mine. The aggregates arise from I grasping. The I grasping is ultimately unreal. How then can there really be any arising of that whose seed is unreal? Depending upon a mirror, the reflection of one's face is seen, but it does not ultimately exist at all. Likewise, depending on the aggregates, I grasping exists. But that I does not truly exist, just like the reflection of one's face. Without depending on the mirror, the reflection of one's face is not seen. Likewise, without depending on the aggregates, there is no notion of an I. Having heard this kind of topic, emptiness, the Arya Ananda obtained the Dharma I. Then he himself taught this topic repeatedly to the monastics. As long as one grasps the aggregates, one will also grasp the I with regard to them. If one grasps the I, karma will be created again, and due to that karma, one will again be reborn. So those are the verses that we're going to be doing the teachings on tonight. So this is a interactive, in other words, a participatory teaching. Okay? You all are welcome and encouraged highly to join us. Ryder, be gentle. Okay. Thank you. In other words, don't ask questions that I don't understand, much less know the answer to. So the first question. Explain the meaning of phenomena are ultimately false and conventionally existent. Participatory. Explain the meaning of phenomena are ultimately false and conventionally existent. This is where that comes in. Do, 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 do. Jeopardy. That's a good point, yeah. Okay, I see you. You appear to me to exist. But my mind is playing tricks on me. What I am seeing is like an illusion. Nothing inherently exists. But you're obviously sitting there. You exist in a conventional way. I took the time to look up the word conventional. Formed by agreement or compact, according with, sanctioned by, or based on convention. Convention means usage or custom, especially in social matters. In other words, we all took ideas and we gave them a label, and we all agreed to that. Basically, if you take a tree apart, you put it in little piles. You put the wood in a pile, you put the water in a pile, you put the leaves in a pile, you put the bark in a pile. And when you get done, you have little piles. Where did the tree go? Okay? The tree was labeled on that. When we put these parts together in a specific order, we labeled it tree. This is what we were taught by our parents or whoever, because that's what they were taught, because that's what they were taught, because that's what they were taught. And it's all labeled conventionally. That's what that means. So conventionally existent, we did it. Existent means that it functions. So conventionally existent means that while it doesn't inherently exist, it does exist conventionally because that's what we all agreed to, whether we knew it or not. Yeah. So that's my explanation of it. Are there any others? Yes? Oh boy.
Phenomena are ultimately false because they do not, in fact, exist in the way they appear. That doesn't, however, mean that they do not exist at all. They exist conventionally as mere label designated by mind.
She's very good, isn't she? I love it. Yes, thank you, Heather. Does everybody agree with that?
I think it's just want to talk about what that means. What does it mean they don't exist as they appear? Because they appear to be separate, independent, out there, existing under their own power, like radiating some quality that makes them what they are, and that's the appearance. That appearance is what's false.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think just to fill in that little gap.
Yep, I agree totally. Very nice. Okay. Is there anything else?
Yeah, they appear to be from their own side a basis for the label we give them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's why I said, you're sitting there, you appear to be real to me, but sorry. Yeah, and that's where the problem lies. Yeah, that's exactly it. We all say, I exist, and then we go about making karma because of it, and it's like, okay.
And realizing that in the Buddhist terminology, real means truly existent.
Truly existent.
Mean, there's a different definition to it. You do appear real, but it's not the way that we think.
That's right.
It's looking at it from your own side.
I just wanted to cover the first part, which, if I heard it correctly, was does not exist. Okay, so
Does not inherently exist.
can you dive into that a little
inherently means exists on its own without causes and condition, all by itself. All right? You exist as a person because you have a body, you have feelings, you have a mind, you are different parts and conditions. But eventually, if you start to look inside of yourself, what is the I based upon? That's what it is.
Seems like there are a couple exceptions to this to me. So it seems like you're using verse 20 and 29, maybe 30 for that verse one kind of.
28. It's one I, what?
Mostly 29. Okay, because the thing that comes to mind for me is two things. One is that if you say all phenomena, we're talking about conditional phenomena here. Because all phenomena, that wouldn't be true. Because emptiness exists as how it appears.
Emptiness is empty of inherent existence, though.
Right. You're saying phenomena are all truly false because they do not exist as they appear.
Did I use the word?
It does exist as it appears.
Good.
And the way
I'm glad you brought that up.
it's written, I don't know, they're saying the subjects they're talking about there are like I and mine, things that are conventionally existent.
Right. Anything that is conventionally existence is false. Anything that is from causes and conditions.
Anything
Well,
that exists.
Not exactly, that's the other point. My second point was about the causes and conditions.
Right.
Because think about existence, it says something that is existence, something that functions, but that's not exactly right, because permanent phenomena are also phenomena, they're also existent, but they don't function,
They don't?
not in the sense of how we think of functional things, because functional things are always impermanent things. It might depend on how you're using the word function.
I think, yeah, I think they probably was. Yeah. Yep. Come on, guys.
Both of those examples are dependent. Space, space is an empty, is a permanent phenomenon, and it's dependent on being labeled. And emptiness is dependent on what is empty. The emptiness of the table is dependent on the table.
Mhm.
So there are other reasons why they're not ultimately existent or inherently existent.
Does anybody disagree with it? Okay. Yes?
I think for me, the sticking point is the permanence that we project onto people.
That sticking point is what has got us into this mess in the first place. It's one of them anyways, yeah.
That
And-
we insist that we
Yep. That's one of the four, something right. Distortion. Yeah, that's one of the four distortions, but that's another topic, please. Okay, thank you. Okay, question number 2. What appears to the Arya's meditative equipoise on emptiness? What does not appear to that mind?
What appears to them is the wisdom that knows the nature of all phenomena, the ultimate nature. It appears phenomena as they really exist. And what does not appear to that mind is the dependent, that they do not exist inherently.
Emptiness appears to an Arya's meditative equipoise on emptiness. Conventional reality and anything else does not appear. True existence of anything does not appear, because there is no true existence of anything.
Nothing else.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, so it's not the wisdom itself that's appearing to that mind, it's the emptiness appearing, right? It's the emptiness.
The Arya's wisdom sees reality. It knows things as they actually are. If things actually existed when then that wisdom should see inherently existent people and phenomena. The ultimate mode of existence is exactly what the Arya's wisdom of meditative equipoise perceives. So if things inherently existent, then an Arya would see those inherently existent phenomena.
But But the wisdom mind of the Arya is perceiving emptiness.
Yes.
Not perceiving wisdom.
Yes. Emptiness appears to an Arya's meditative equipoise on emptiness.
Can you remind us who or what an Arya is?
Someone who, how would you say it? Yeah, someone who has realized emptiness. Directly. Directly, yes. Okay. So, did I answer that question? Okay. True existence does not appear, and yeah, conventional phenomena does not appear. Nothing else appears. Emptiness appears. That's right. All in. That'd be an interesting channel, yeah. Okay. Question number 3. What is a conventional, reliable cognizer? What does it apprehend? Is it mistaken? Erroneous? Does it realize emptiness? I had to break this conventional, reliable cognizer into 3 different parts. Okay. So conventional, we've already discussed that, right? Reliable, 2 thumbs way up on correctly label a category. Correctly labeling something, okay? I'm labeling you a person, right? As long as it's conventional, it's not ultimately in existence, but it's conventionally in existence, you are a person, you function as a person. That's what it means by reliable. And the other one is cognizer, a knower, a consciousness that knows, that understands, that perceives things, okay? So we did that. So, that's what a conventional, reliable cognizer is. So what does it apprehend? It apprehends things that function conventionally. Does everybody understand what I'm trying to get at? And ultimately, it does not inherently exist. But if you see anything around you, you see Ryder, you see Larissa, that's a functioning thing. They function as people, so they're conventionally existent. Correctly. I like that word, yeah. Okay. Okay, is it mistaken?
Yes.
Yes, it is mistaken. Why is it mistaken?
We really do still see Larissa and Ryder as existing from their own side, having Larissa-ness and Ryder-ness within their very corpus.
That is absolutely correct. Mm-hmm. Is it erroneous?
Not if it's a reliable cognizer.
No. Erroneous would be where you see a scarecrow in a field, and instead of labeling it a scarecrow, you label it a real person. That would be erroneous.
Yeah, it has a mistaken appearance.
Right. And does it realize emptiness? Does a conventional, reliable cognizer realize emptiness?
No.
No. An erroneous consciousness is when, No, a conventional, valid cognizer of ordinary beings cannot perceive the ultimate nature of phenomena. Let's see what she says. Don't.
Because it's obscured by ignorance.
That probably, yeah. In brief, conventionally existent things such as I and mind that are of the objects of a valid mind apprehending I and mind appear truly existent, although they are not. They are mistaken. They exist conventionally, nominally. They do not exist on an ultimate level. Inherently existent things that are the object of grasping I and mind as truly existent do not exist at all. If they did, they would be perceived by the Arya's wisdom, a meditative equipoise that perceives reality. This wisdom, however, not only does not perceive inherently existent things, but it perceives the opposite, the emptiness of inherent existence. The valid mind apprehending I and mine is a conventional valid cognizer. It is correct with respect to the conventional nature of things and knows you can use a car to go somewhere. However, it is not valid with respect to the ultimate nature because its objects do not exist as they appear. They appear inherently existence, whereas they are not. So, okay, cool.
It's actually a wisdom mind that realizes emptiness. What happens to the conventional mind when the mind is realizing emptiness?
You can't ask me questions I don't know how to answer either.
A wisdom mind is a particular mind. Does that arise out of a conventional, reliable cognizer, or is it separate? I got a little confused, but I didn't want to say totally no that the conventional mind can't realize emptiness because the wisdom mind comes from something.
Direct receiver.
Yeah, it's a direct
It's totally
receiver.
separate from the conventional mind?
Look, it's kind of like you're cutting up the pie differently, I think, because the conventional one is a spiritual. Well, not even necessarily, I guess it could be, I think that
We have sense direct receivers.
direct
Valid
receivers are
cognizers.
also reliable.
I just want to know when we're going into this, when the mind is meditating on emptiness directly, what's going on with the conventional mind? That's what I got.
I don't have that information.
Maybe what's going on with the
Yeah, it's through the,
Yeah.
Yeah, so
yeah, you don't have one.
At that
So
point,
how
okay.
about this, how about the yogic direct receiver?
Yeah, that would be it.
Direct receiver, the yogic direct
That is
receiver.
Because we can have all these different kinds of minds. Conventional mind is just one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't in that list, that's where I was saying they're cutting up the pie differently. When we learned in the low rib, you know, Venerable started it off with the whole thing, there's different ways to divide the mind. One way is the way we learned it in low rib, that's one way, but this wasn't in that list, so this, it's like you're cutting up the pie differently when you're using that word.
Eventually.
Traditional reliable cognitive.
Okay, question number 4. Explain the analogy of the reflection in the mirror.
So, depending on a mirror, the reflected image of our face appears. And the appearance of the face is false. There's no face in the mirror. Then similarly, dependent on grasping the aggregates is truly existent. Grasping the eye is truly existent arises. But the truly existent eye that is conceived, it is the conceived object of the eye, grasping doesn't exist. So just as the appearance of a real face in the mirror is false, and a mind that apprehends it as a real face is erroneous, the appearance of a truly existent eye is false, and grasping it as true is an erroneous consciousness.
Exactly. See, I couldn't have said better myself.
I think it's helpful to say that there's no face in the mirror, but there is a reflection of the face in the mirror.
Right.
That's we got to make sure that there's not.
Okay, so we see a face in the mirror. Unless we're a cat or a very small child, we know that it is just a reflection of a face. It doesn't inherently exist. The same is true with a person. A collection of parts does not a truly inherent person make. That's my words. But we grasp at them as if we in fact do inherently exist. We need to see that this person that we perceive ourselves to be is like a reflection in a mirror, not inherently existent. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, if you could, as cultivate an understanding that, I mean, nobody well, that's not true.
Cat or the,
Well, sometimes
yeah,
it's
little
true.
kid.
Sometimes, you walk by, even Jeffrey tells a story,
Yeah.
of seeing some seedy guy across the street.
Yeah.
And he thinks he's just some seedy guy, and he goes, oh, no, it's a reflection, and it's me.
No.
So there's that part, but generally, if you're looking in the mirror and you're over 2 years old, or maybe younger, you know that that's a reflection, and so you don't buy into it.
Mhm.
So to just imagine what it would be to understand that everything I'm apprehending is like that reflection, and so to be able to relate to it in the same way, but not believe in it so intensely, how amazing that would be. I love this.
That's the thing, when the horizon turns around, that's what I think is so cool too, because then when you see these things, you would know they were false, and you'd know, oh, they have to be a dependent horizon, because they're not autonomous, under their own power, unrelated to other factors. That would, right then, it would tell you when Tsongkhapa reverses it around.
I have to say that for all the years I ever looked at myself in the mirror, primping, and, putting lipstick on and looking at my face and whatever, there were times where I forgot that that was just a reflection, and I had a lot of opinion about that person that was in that mirror. So that's where it was a little harder for me to see, because my relationship to that face has been a lot closer to inherently existent than I want to admit. So anyway, now that we don't have any mirrors around here, I can I was a teenager, I had a lot of investment in that face.
Yeah, but I think that's why this is such a great analogy to really meditate on, because you know for a fact that if the light were not on and you're standing in front of that mirror, you get no reflection. Right? I mean, you have to have all of these conditions in order for that appearance to be there. And to think that that's exactly the way we're misapprehending everything else, to be able to get that we're projecting, all these other causes and conditions have to be present, and our mind conceiving it is what's bringing this appearance alive in a way. I don't know, I think it's really useful.
Yeah.
Useful thing to think about.
And then we'll also talking about seeing people in a TV or in a movie.
Yep.
Right.
And that really draws out our afflictions. We get so attached to these people, we start crying over their problems, but we know it's just pixels on a screen.
Right.
And yet we get so drawn in emotionally.
That's what life seems to be like. Yeah? Seems to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still mad at Brad Pitt for what he did to Thelma and Louise.
Yeah! Took the money and ran.
In that case, it's not only just pixels, it's also the drama is false and being played out falsely.
And actually, it's our emotions too. They're not inherently existent, but we feel them.
That's what's interesting to me about the mirror, is that at a very, very young age, a mirror is tied to something emotional. How pretty is this face? How adequate is it to go outside? How acceptable are those teeth? Are they clean enough? A whole big system of value is pushed on the mirror at a very early age. This is how we check to see if we're real and we're okay.
Especially the okay part. Yeah.
It's very powerful because it's tied into very early soothing or harsh, but early strong parental messages about the mirror and the use of it and what it says, supposedly.
I think of the carnival mirrors that would distort.
Yes.
See, that was always a good little throw you around a little bit.
Okay, next question. Explain the 4-point analysis to meditate on the emptiness of the eye. How does the eye appear to the innate eye-grasping mind? She did teach on this, guys. Come on now. Okay, the first one is identify the object of negation. Ask yourself, how does the eye appear to the innate eye-grasping mind? We can see this most clearly when we are angry or upset. It appears as something that is independent of, but also mixed with, the body and mind. Think about it. Yeah, it does. You know, it's part of us, but separate from us. Yeah. So the next one says, next you tell yourself, if the I truly exists, then it has to be either completely identical with the aggregates as a whole, or with one of the aggregates, or as something completely separate from them. There is no third choice. Think about that. Is it correct?
If the I exists as it appears, it has to be either completely one with the aggregates.
Yeah.
Completely separate.
It's got to be either completely identical with the aggregates as a whole, or with one of the aggregates. There's nothing else, there's no other choice. Yeah. And the reason that there is no other choice is because we're talking in terms of true existence. If we were speaking in terms of just regular, conventional, nominal existence, then you don't have those parameters because you could have one thing dependent upon the other. But in terms of inherent existent things, they don't have a dependent relationship. They have to be either inherently one and the same, or inherently totally different. There's no third choice. And that's what that second point is. You tell yourself and you ask yourself, is this statement I'm saying correct? Is it one or the other? And that's the second step. You're not really looking at how it exists right at this moment. Just the second step is you convince yourself it has to be one or the other. It can't be both, or there is no third choice. All right? So that's the second step. You have to buy that. Yes, you have to convince yourself of that premise before you go on to the third step. The third step is we ask ourselves, is the I self-existent the way it appears or not? And we look to see how I actually exists. And we start by examining if the I is one and the same as the aggregates. So we just looked at the aggregates and said, okay, it's got to be this or that. Is it this? Is it one with the aggregates? And step 4 is, if it's not this, then it's that. Is it that? And that's how we look at emptiness. Yep. Is it completely separate from the aggregates?
And so the process, I think the process is important.
I believe you.
If we establish that for sure, okay, I get it. They either have to be completely one with or completely separate from. Then I have to look for it. So, is it my body? Is it my finger? Is it this mole that's only mine and nobody else has one? Is it my tattoo?
Hey.
You really spend time looking in that to see where it is.
I agree. Does everybody... If you don't understand, we're just planting seeds, so we can go ahead. Does everybody agree with that statement? Okay. How does the I appear to the innate I-grasping mind? Okay. The I appears to the innate I-grasping mind is analogous to the way the reflected image of the face appears to be a face. It is a false I. It appears to be truly existent. It appears to be independent and totally existent from its own side for a very short time. Then it gets mixed up with something else, with the appearance of shapes and colors or the collection of the aggregates. And that's when you start to grasp at it. Okay? And it says, first there is a moment of valid mind that has the appearance of true existence. It thinks, for example, I am walking. The moment after that, the innate I-grasping arises. The continuity of that valid mind does not become the innate I-grasping. Rather, the next moment, the innate I-grasping arises, grasping at the I as existing the way it appears. The mind apprehending the conventionally existent I and the innate I grasping are difficult to distinguish. So if you don't understand, people have to look, you have to take years and years and years and years to look at it and try to figure out what's the I grasping and what's the conventionally existent I. Okay. Is everybody totally confused now? 'Cause I know I am. Good, thank you. Okay, shall we go on? Hey, venerable children can explain this a heck of a lot better than I can. Okay? So, question number 6. Some people say that freedom from all conceptuality is liberation. Is this correct? Why or why not? I gotta know. That's the answer to the first one.
Is that the belief that if you just give up thinking, you will be free of cyclic existence, and that's what's incorrect. Okay. Any kind of thought, any kind of cognitive. Because we have to rely on thinking in order to understand the ultimate nature.
It is not correct. We live our lives in concepts. We need conceptuality in order to look at and study and understand emptiness. First, we get an inferential understanding of emptiness, then a realization. And venerable children talked about wrong views. One is that some people think that the I-grasping mind is a conceptual mind, so that we just have to stop all concepts and then we're free. Just stop thinking at all because all of our conceptual minds are grasping at a truly existent object. That's incorrect. Not all conceptual minds are grasping at a truly existent object. It's true that self-grasping is a conceptual mind that grasps at a truly existent object. That needs to be eliminated. But not all conceptual minds are erroneous consciousnesses. They may have the false appearance, but they're not erroneous consciousnesses. In order to realize emptiness, first we have to realize it conceptually and with an inferential cognizer understand it. To learn about emptiness, we have to use conception, even though later on we want to be able to go beyond conception and realize emptiness directly. That's one wrong view to refute. That a realization of emptiness is just getting rid of all conceptual awareness, conceptualizations whatsoever. Yeah, okay.
This is, I think, where Guy Newman says if this were so, then a hammer blow to the head should be sufficient to bring you to awakening.
Yes, I agree. Okay, question number 7. What? It's number 7 on my piece of paper. Don't confuse me. I'm confused enough as it is.
Yeah, it's merely labeled.
It's really labeled, yeah. Okay, which comes first? The appearance of the aggregates or the appearance of the I? Which comes first? Grasping the aggregates as truly existent or grasping the I as truly existent? Yeah. The appearance of the aggregates comes first. Grasping the aggregates as truly existent comes first. So I'm going to tell you what Venerable Chodron says. The appearance of the I must depend on the aggregates. The I does not appear without the aggregates. When the aggregates appear to us, they appear truly existent. That appearance of the aggregates as truly existent quickly induces a self-grasping that grasps the aggregates as truly existent. Upon this basis, the notion of a truly existent I arises in our mind. Thus, without the appearance of the aggregates, the I grasping does not arise. So,
no light, no mirror, no phase.
That's right. It's the same thing. If you don't have a mirror, you can't have a reflection in a mirror. Okay. Question number 8. 17. Why do we meditate on the emptiness of the I before the emptiness of the aggregates? So they say. Okay. It's easier to see that the I is dependent upon the aggregates, that the I is designated in independence upon the aggregates. Seeing the aggregates as dependent is more difficult. Basically what they're saying is you see a person, you see their aggregates, and then you label I on it. Right? You hear a voice. The voice is an aggregate, a part of the aggregate. It's part of the, it's an object. And then you label I upon it to the other person. So that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, it says, first we meditate on the selflessness of the person, our own I. Then we meditate on the selflessness of phenomena, our physical and mental aggregates, as well as other phenomena. The reason for this reverse sequence is twofold. First, when we contemplate how the I exists, it is comparatively easy to see that it is dependent on its basis of designation, the aggregates. After all, to identify a person, we have to perceive one or more of her aggregates. We know Venerable Choni is there because we see her body. And we know Venerable Tarpa is there because we hear her voice. It's not difficult to see that the person depends on the aggregates, that it is designated in dependence on the aggregates. Thus the person, the I, is not autonomous, it's dependent. On the other hand, seeing the aggregates as dependent is more difficult. It is not as easy to see that they depend on their basis of designation. That's one reason. The second reason is the view of the personal identity is the primary cause of cyclic existence. It is very important to get rid of it first in order to free ourselves from samsara. Self-grasping of the person, the view of the personal identity, is the primary cause of cyclic existence. Although all forms of self-grasping must be refuted to attain liberation, the one that is the worst in terms of being the basis for the designation of afflictions, and thus the creation of polluted karma, is the self-grasping of the person. Thus, negating it first is of great importance. In short, although there is no difference in the object of negation or its subtlety with respect to the self-grasping of persons and the self-grasping of phenomenon, we begin my meditation on emptiness by negating the self of persons.
Okay.
Just says that you got to do it the right way first. We're getting there. We're getting there. Last question. And it actually relates to what we just talked about. If, as long as there is grasping the aggregates as truly existent, grasping the I as truly existent will arise. That was the paragraph number 35. How is it possible to realize the emptiness of the I before the emptiness of the aggregates? Did I? Yeah, we just said that we meditate on, where'd it go? Dang. We meditate on the emptiness of the I before the emptiness of the aggregates. But the verse 35 said, as long as there is grasping the aggregates as truly existent, grasping the I as truly existent will arise. So how is it possible to realize the emptiness of the I before the emptiness of the aggregates? That was what the verse said. Anybody? Any? Basically, let me go to it.
Because
Go ahead, go ahead.
Is it because you realize the definition of one phenomenon and you realize the difference of supposedly all phenomena?
That would be a good guess.
No longer been grasping at the aggregates.
No. But basically what it's saying is that when it's talking about it says literally, it seems that as long as you have the true grasping of the aggregates, you will have true grasping of the I. Literally, it seems that as long as you don't realize the non-existence of the conceived object of self-grasping of the aggregates, you cannot realize the non-existence of the conceived object of the I grasping. But it wouldn't be right to explain it literally this way because first you have to realize the selflessness of persons, which involves realizing the non-existence of the conceived object of the true grasping of the I. It has to do with the difference between innate grasping and acquired grasping. What this verse means is that you have to get rid of the acquired grasping of the I, of the aggregates, before you can realize the inherent emptiness of the I. Okay, acquired grasping is what? It's what you learn in this lifetime. The innate grasping at the I is what you take from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. So it's going to be a lot easier to get rid of the acquired grasping, which you learned in this lifetime, than it is to get rid of the innate grasping. So this verse is saying you have to get rid of that acquired grasping of the aggregates before you can realize the innate grasping of the I. And that's what it's saying.
But it also, I mean, I don't know if this is right or not, but when you said that, it was like, oh, right, because the object also is not the aggregate, the object you're looking at is not the aggregate, it's the I. Right? I mean, that's one of the
We meditate on the getting rid of the aggregates and then the I.
not getting rid of the aggregates, but
Right.
what you're, even though it's the appearance of the
Appearance.
aggregates that makes that I arise, the
Mhm.
object of your meditation is that I, not
Right.
the aggregates.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you're looking for is the I, not the aggregates.
Yeah. So, hello.
Heather wrote, I can read what she wrote, quite good. There are different levels of grasping. In this verse, it means that as long as the acquired grasping is there, we can't realize the emptiness of the person. We have to have the gross acquired grasping subdued so that there is space in the mind to realize the selflessness of the person. You have to reduce acquired grasping. And then you have the inferential realization of emptiness of the person. And if you take that same inferential reasoning and apply it to the aggregates, then you can have an inferential realization of the emptiness of the aggregates. But you still have at that time the grasping at the aggregates and the grasping at the self when you are out of meditation session.
You have to get rid of the gross acquired grasping of the aggregates in order for you to be able to move forward in your practice of realizing the emptiness of the I. In other words, if you think that the aggregates are truly existent, then you won't go looking for the emptiness of the aggregates or the emptiness of the I. To realize the selflessness of the person, you must not be thinking that the aggregates are truly existent.
So can we have like a common, what would the mind be thinking between an acquired grasping and the innate? What would we learn that's different than what we learn?
I don't understand what you're asking.
Well, it says you have to eliminate the acquired grasping. What is the acquired grasping? How does it perceive the self that's different than what the innate that comes from life to life, how it's perceiving the self?
The innate,
Infinite, heartless,
Unitary,
yeah, yeah. The acquired is where she said it, your philosophies, your religion, whatever you brought in this life.
Those are levels that we have to,
right, it's the first level.
those are the course levels. that we're
Mm-hmm,
trying
exactly.
To subdue, but I didn't know that they were acquired. I thought that they were innate as well, the coarser versions of.
Mm-mm.
The permanent, partless, unitary, independent,
Are
are
acquired.
acquired.
Yep.
It's like the soul. It's the soul.
Yeah. And that's all I have.
Nice talk. I think it's reassure our retreatants that this is not the topic of the retreat.
This is not the topic of the retreat. This is a teaching that had been going on for a couple of years now, and we are in the middle of it. So,
But we're going to start to see how this misconception gets us into all sorts of trouble, why we need to purify. because
yes.
we get into trouble.
Yes.
We're going to talk about the trouble we get into because of this.
Talk about how to get out of the trouble.
Get out of the trouble. Yeah. How we get in and how we get out.
Okay. Is there anything else anybody would like to say?
Thank you.
Real nice quote.
All right.
I found a real nice quote in my notes. It's a little further into the teaching, but it applies to it. This is from Venerable Children, but I think she's quoting from Kappa. If anything more than what is merely designated by conception is the object of negation. And then she says anything more is inherently existent, which doesn't exist.
I believe it. Who am I to argue with Venerable Children or Tsongkhapa? Come on.
Anything more than what is merely designated by conception is the object of negation. And we'll put that at the critical analysis.
It's a little more subtle than.
Yeah, but it's very deep. I like it. Yeah, it definitely gives you something to think about.